Hi, everybody, and welcome to Weekend Gameplan with Marcus Hersh. I'm Dan Illman, along with Daily Racing Form handicapper and analyst Marcus Hersh. 3 spot plays for you this weekend, 3 major stakes races. And Marcus, we'll kick things off down at Gulfstream Park for the Holy Bull Stakes. We'll take a look at that field right now. We've got a big favorite in here. The number 3, Tis the Law, the winner of the Champagne Stakes last year, is 3-5. What's the knock on this horse?
3-5. I hadn't seen the line till right now. That's do you think he's going to be 3-5?
I think he's going to be pretty short in here. Maybe not 3-5, but I'd be hard pressed to see this horse over even money.
I could see even money, I guess. The knock on him. Well, I mean, I think the knock is. I have 2 concerns. One, he definitely looked like an early developing type. We'll see the constitutions that first crop from him are 3-year-olds now. First crop is 3-year-olds. But he came out running very professional. He's not a big horse, not super more developed physically than his peers as a 2-year-old, but I think he was very athletic, well put together, and had an excellent disposition and a nose for racing. Like one of those early developing point guards in high school or something. I just didn't think that his Kentucky Jockey Club was nearly as impressive as his other 2 races. Maybe he didn't like the slop. I grant everyone that he did not have an ideal trip in that race. However, once he had a chance to get through, he just didn't kick on. And Finnick the Fierce ran back in the Lecomte Stakes. He lost a lot of ground, but he was a blah 5th. Silver Prospector ran 4th at Oaklawn in his 3-year-old debut. Enforceable came out of the race to win the Lecomte. I don't think the KJC was a great race. Given the way he finished there and his price in this race, I think they're coming back in a 2-turn race right away just to see where they stand with this horse as a route horse. And if it's an experiment for them, I don't want to take the short price.
And there is rain in the forecast down in Hallandale Beach. And if you want to make an excuse that the wet track affected this horse, maybe he might face another one again. There are a couple of interesting horses coming out of a race at Gulfstream. Ete Indienne and Chad Brown's Toledo. We're going to watch that race right now. Ete Indienne got to the lead. We're going to see him on the stretch on his left lead throughout. Toledo is chasing. Toledo was very confidently ridden early, in and among horses, then taken to the outside with a 4-wide bid. I wonder if that compromised him a little bit.
I don't think there's any question he had a more difficult trip, particularly given the dynamics of Gulfstream, than Ed Indienne. But I do think, it was a sizable margin of victory and 2.5 lengths. What I do think is that this horse was probably more meant for this race than Ed Indienne. I am guessing that Chad Brown had the race in mind for him all along and was using that as a prep. The horse is very much bred to go 2 turns. He's even smaller, I think, than Tis the Law. There's not a lot of him, but I like the way he looks. I like his recent workouts. I liked his maiden race, and I really like his gallops out in his last 2 races for whatever that's worth. Those gallops out, and plus his pedigree and just the whole shape of this horse makes me think that this horse is ready to step forward in his 2-turn debut.
I think a good trip is coming from the inside post where we'll be able to save some valuable ground in behind the speeds. He does look like an up-and-comer, and Toledo will be a fair price with Tis the Law in this race. Let's go to New York for the Withers Stakes, Grade 3, $250,000. It's a major race for 3-year-olds. Let's take a look at this field. And I can understand anybody that takes a look at Shotsky at 2-1 on the morning line and says, listen, Shotsky's a really nice horse, but he had everything his own way last time out in the Remsen on a day where you had to be on the lead and near the rail, and that's where Shotsky was.
Yeah, I think he's decent. Again, he's coming out of this Kentucky population from the street sense. South Bend was really disappointing in Florida to me. I'm not sure how good he is fighting CB Silver Prospector. So it's I'm going back beyond the Remsen to see what kind of form there is to validate his supposed superiority in this field. And I'm not totally seeing it. I'm not going to be surprised if he runs a very creditable race, but I do think he's going to be underpriced. It really looks to me like the pace dynamic is changing on this horse. In this race, don't you think that? I mean, I think they're going to be going a pretty decent clip. I'm not saying he can't keep up. I think he can. I just think he's going to have to do different things here. What do you think of Portos as a second choice alternative?
I have a feeling that Portos might even take so much money in this race that he's going to threaten for favoritism simply because of the connections. You've got Todd Pletcher. You've got this horse as a son of Tappet coming off of just a monster blowout victory last time out at 1 1/8. I mean, this is a horse that I think is going to take a lot of money. He has to prove it against these kind of horses. He's all upside, and he actually might be the horse with the most long-term potential, in my opinion.
It's possible. I mean, for the margin of victory, I was completely underwhelmed with his performance. Yeah, I mean, he drew off and won very comfortably at this distance, but he strikes me as a real plodding type. I think that's why he's in New York, not Florida, and why he's in this 9 furlong race again. It's going to be interesting to see how he adapts to a much faster pace. I don't think it's supposed to rain either Saturday, and it's going to be a much different situation. I'm very skeptical of him, and if you're right about the price, even more so if he's threatening for favoritism.
Trainer Linda Rice has entered 2 horses in this race. Max Player is your top selection in here, coming off a win over a wet track at Parks. We're going to watch that race right now. He wins this race very easily, and I just think this was a nice confidence booster for a colt with a good pedigree going the right way.
Well, this is a weird horse. I don't know if he's any good at all. I think he might be. He might have talent, actually. He's acted kind of like an idiot in his first 2 starts. His first race was a disaster. He hated the kickback. He was taken to the outside. He was way too far behind. He had no business getting as close as he did in that race, just beating a half length. He was really coming on, quickly galloped out in front. I know it wasn't a great field. I think Ashrak is maybe not terrible, the horse that beat him, but that was an encouraging race for me. So second start out, fitted with blinkers. This horse was really asked to get into the race earlier, which kind of worked. He stayed closer, also very wide again, especially throughout the far turn. I kind of feel like the way the tactics worked against his natural tendencies and what he wants to do. Once again, as he had in his debut, he galloped out like a horse who is really asking for a lot more ground. Overall, the quality of the competition he's faced in his first 2 starts is probably a solid notch below this, but I'm guessing that this race is going to be run to suit him with a fairly strong tempo. I'm hoping he's allowed to just drop back this time and make his one long looping run, and that he's good enough at something like 6-1.
He's 9-2 on the morning line. It'll be interesting to see how this race is played. And you know Shotsky and Portos are going to take money. I'm not sure about Monday morning quarterback, 4-1 on the third choice. I wonder if Max Player gets bet a little bit, but for our sakes, we're hoping he goes off at 6-1. We'll move to Santa Anita for the San Pasqual. And I had a feeling, Marcus, that you were going to pick this race because whenever you see Roadster's name in the PPs, you see an opportunity.
Wow, is it that obvious? I mean, after Mucho Gusto won the Pegasus World Cup, I mean, I guess maybe I should reassess the Baffert contingent of 3-year-olds of 2019, but I don't like Roadster here in this race at all. He's listed at 7-2. This is another race I hadn't seen the line when I did Weekend Gameplan this week. This is a kind of an interesting race, and they managed to get 10 horses in an older horse dirt route, which is remarkable for California these days. I think the race has some appeal. I don't see any budding stars in here, but I see a bunch of horses who have shown something recently, and with Roadster sure to take some action, I think that it's an opportunity to get a little bit of value on some other horses here.
And the horse you do like in here is the 3 Restrained Vengeance, and he's listed as 4-1 on the morning line. but I would expect this horse maybe to drift up a little bit. This is a horse trained by low-profile Val Brinkerhoff. A win last time out at Zia Park. But what you have to like about this horse is the horse's versatility. He runs on turf, he runs on dirt, he probably runs on broken glass, and he ran these horses off their feet in the Zia Championship last time out to the tune of a 99 Beyer speed figure. He has good speed.
He does, but he doesn't need to be on the lead. And I think there's a lot of other pace in here, and his tactical versatility could suit him. And you mentioned something that was one of the reasons that I supported him and think that he could be valued, the low-profile connections. And his last two dirt races were at Zia and Emerald. And I think that between that and his turf form, he may get downgraded by some people more than is merited. He did show some real talent all along at 3, but I thought that he really blossomed at 4, and he seems like the sort of horse, and he has the pedigree, the sort of horse is going to be an even better 5-year-old. I don't think that he needs turf for his best at all. His Long Acres Mile was excellent. I would say that the quality of that field was comparable to what he's facing here, and he had a slow break from the rail, had a more difficult trip than either of the two horses that barely beat him, and he might prefer a little bit more distance, just how things look over the course of his start since then, especially that 9 furlong race at Zia Park. I wanted to take back a little bit. I want the real speed horses to show, so there's a truly run race, and I'm guessing that after the 2-month break that he's going to be ready to come right back with a comparable performance.
Well, he fits at a price. His last 2 dirt Beyer speed figures, 99, 98. We saw him run off the screen last time out, and he's got that versatile running style. To recap the 3 spot plays in this week's weekend game plan, in the Holy Bull Stakes, Marcus likes the number 1, Toledo. In the Withers at Aqueduct, it's the number 3, Max Player. And in the San Pasqual at Santa Anita, it's the number 3, Restrained Vengeance. Best of luck with your wagers.